on this poem this morning called Who Killed the Dreamer? The poem is about a black man. So I guess the people that's most interested is black people. Look at how Dr. King struggled and went to jail to overcome bigotry and injustice in this country that have been here ever since the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock. It's time for black people to stop running for the white folks' leftovers and start building up their own community. One of the things that we're faced with now is the new American Nazi Party. They hate niggas and Jews. Well, to me, a Nazi ain't nothing but a Klansman with a swastika on his sheet. So I want to tell you about it. Once I heard a man who had a dream, and he told this nation of his dream, and only a man so close to God could have such dream. He was Martin Luther. Some call him the Black Messiah, and so I asked the government of this country who killed the dreamer. How could a people of such great justice stand by and keep silent even in the face of cold-blooded murder? A deed so horrifying until it cast shadows over some of the highest offices in this land, and so I asked the Justice Department to search its secret files and tell this nation who killed the dreamer. We let one injustice endure. It is a seed for injustice to spread everywhere. Have this nation grown so sick that a man of peace could be called a troublemaking communist nigger by a few two-bit redneck cornbread-eating peckerwoods? And if I sound angry, I am. And the thing that I can't understand is how come a country so rich and powerful can be ruled by such small-minded men? How come this country's biggest racist governor of Alabama can be in the front running for president of the United States? And so I ask America, who killed the dreamer? How can the clergymen of this country speak of being teachers of God when they cannot ask the question? And so I'll ask them one, who killed the dreamer? We do not overcome the shame of our own prejudices, we might destroy all that have made this country great. So I ask the fair-minded men of the world to help America find out who killed the dreamer. Now the world forgotten Adolf Hitler. He did not have the approval of all the German people when he set out to destroy the whole Jewish race, because no one cared. Everyone was too busy minding their own business, so they closed their ears because the sound of screams and murder would have opened their eyes to what was happening to their Jewish brothers. So I asked the rabbis of this country to help us find out who killed the dreamer. I'm sick and tired of people using communism as a means of racism. Now I've found that the majority of Americans don't believe in nothing. Most of them carry out the wishes of a few, and so I asked the minority to help us find out who killed the dreamer. Look at how Dr. King marched in places like Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, Mobile, Selma, and then on to Memphis, where he met his paid assassin. We had a man that fired the shot. Now we want the one that put the gun in his hand. And I don't mean some little sick redneck that thought he was going to be a hero. The man that paid the bill had another thought in mind. He got very badly fooled because he didn't keep up with the changing of the time. So I ask everyone who live below the Mason-Dixon line, why take the credit if you didn't commit the crime? And so I asked the Southern Baptists, who killed the dreamer? We can no longer use discriminatory tactics and call it justice. The Supreme Court have gotten away with this crime for almost 200 years. You see, when the Dred Scott decision was handed down in the history books, it took its place. Scott was not the only one to suffer. It was the whole black race. Presidents have been watchdogs over Congress and have often pulled their coat and have threatened them with bodily harm if they stood up on a civil rights vote. But right now I ain't concerned about all those Capitol Hill schemers. trying to find out who killed the dreamer. Racism is a seed that has been planted into the minds of a nation. The roots are so deeply embedded until it becomes a way of life for some of her people. I'm not saying that all white people are racist. But now is the time to set fire to the tree that you have planted. You may not have ever taken part in an unlawful act against another human being, but you tolerated it. And toleration killed John Kennedy. And toleration killed Robert Kennedy. And toleration murdered Dr. Martin Luther King. And to me, toleration just ain't that far from participation. Speak out now and don't keep silent, not even for one more day. Let's ask the Supreme Court who killed the dreamer. I want to hear what they have to say. But now listen, I'm not talking about no civil rights. And I sure as hell ain't talking about no equal rights, because the only place most men want a woman beside them is at home in bed. What I am talking about, I'm talking about human rights. We failed to let it be known who killed the dreamer. We proved that we're not ready for justice. Instead, we proved that we are a nation of night-riding, gun-toting heathens, and that we don't care about our country. And we don't care about what happened to her people, long as your rights are protected. But I don't think Martin Luther King ever looked at his own personal rights. Instead, he looked at the rights of a sick society. He couldn't understand the idea of one group of Americans living in poverty, sickness, and hunger, while the others feasted on milk and honey in a land of good and plenty. Have you ever been cold? So cold that your bones ache, and your fingers got so stiff until they felt like they would break. And you picked cotton and you chopped corn, and your hands got so raw until they blistered right down to the bone, and your feet hurt so bad you couldn't keep shoes on. You would go to town on Saturday and get you some cheese and lunch meat, but you'd have to walk around with it in your hand because you couldn't go in a public place to eat. Don't it make you sick when you think about all you had to stand? No one killed the dream, but someone most assuredly murdered the man. So raise your voice up in anger and join in with me. Until we find out who killed the dreamer, not one American can truly be free. Now we're going to have to get on the back of the Congress and drive it into the ground. I want to know who killed the dreamer today, not 25 years from now. We can no longer tolerate hatred, bigotry, and racism at the hands of our elected officials. It has been a tradition in this country that the loudest-mouthed, meatless-minded redneck had a good future in American politics. We're going to have to start telling the politicians, if you can't help me, then I don't need you. Tired of putting the blame on some little sick individual to who in his wildest dreams couldn't have thought of such devious crime alone. It's time to start putting the blame where it belongs. It belongs on America. Let's ask ourselves who killed the dreamer. He was a dead man 200 years before he was born because he believed in justice. And he believed in equality, and he had a vision of a great America where a man could live free and enjoy the fruits of his own labor. How in the hell can you talk about labor when you can't even get a decent job? Dr. King tried to stand up for the man that hauled trash and garbage and all your other waste, and to see that he received a decent wage so he wouldn't have to live in what he worked at. So I asked the labor union to help us find out who killed the dreamer. I get angry. I get plumb damn mad when I hear black folks say we made it. We ain't made nothing. Got a big car and a decent house to live in. You think you got everything. But the next time you catch yourself thinking like that, you might as well put a bone in your nose and a spear in your hand and go back to the jungle. A big car and a house ain't nothing but a watermelon in disguise. So if you're tired of being fools, try to act like Americans. You got rights too, so use them. And ask anybody you walk up to who killed the dreamer. Tears come to my eyes when I think about all those sleepless nights that Martin Luther King had when he walked the floor thinking about our rights and couldn't sleep because of the threat on the lives of his own family. He took all the beatings and insults and false imprisonments that a southern governor of Alabama had to offer, and he still kept coming. So if you ever stood up, do it now. And I'm not only talking to the blacks, I'm talking to the poor and the old and the lame and the young and anyone who has suffered injustice at the hands of our law enforcement system. Stand up and ask the FBI who killed the dreamer. Talk about justice. How can I ever sing my country tears of thee? When they wrote the United States Constitution, ain't nobody included me. Now you know we beat the British. Won our independence so everyone could be free. Then the free Americans took back life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and made a slave out of me. So if you're tired of being used, stand up and ask who killed the dreamer. After 200 years, I feel like I paid my due. Another thing that makes me tired. Every time a black man speak out against conditions in America, he have to be one of two things. A black militant or a preacher. Well, I ain't no black militant. And I sure don't go around pretending I'm no preacher. But now listen, we could use a few good preachers who instead of telling you don't do as I do, but do as I tell you, and both of y'all gonna die and go to hell together. More people need salvation now than at any other time in the history of the world. Preachers are too busy wondering about how much money they're gonna get in the collection bowl. Stand up, brother preacher. Preach till your face turn red and blue. And ask God who killed the dreamer, then maybe he'll answer you. You women, I ain't talking to black women only. I'm talking to all women. The next time you get ready to put your kid to bed, stop and say a prayer for another mother. You know how hard it is to raise a kid with the support and the help of your husband. Think of how hard it would be if you had to do it alone. Think about how you would explain to your child that his father was murdered because he looked at injustice in America and seen what it was doing to the minds of her people. Wish some of y'all would ask your husband who killed the dreamer. Made Coretta Scott King and her children bear the yoke of being fatherless and called a widow. Why don't you think about that? Every time your man walk out that front door, think about what life would hold for you and your children if he didn't come back no more. Why don't you ask yourselves who killed the dreamer? I think the government should go to Mrs. King. And the president should stand before the nation and say that I declare the Congress to make Martin Luther King's date of birth a national holiday. And to Mrs. King, wish you please try and understand. I did not mean to cause you and your family further grief, but I had to ask to kill the dreamer so that I could live with myself again. I hope God will bless you and keep you. Peace will go with you throughout all the days of your life, and I can truly say that God has blessed America. Thank you.